Today I'm going to talk about some of the biggest myths around barn conversions. The biggest myth, and it overrides all the other myths, is the idea that my barn conversion will be cheaper and easier because I already have a structure standing. And in some of these cases, this barn's been standing for over 100 years. So it should be easy to just keep it standing and turn it into a different use. That's not very true. Unfortunately, that barn's been standing under certain conditions, certain weather patterns, certain use patterns, and you're going to want to make some pretty major changes to that structure in order to have a successful barn conversion. So I tell clients that a barn conversion is a labor of love, and you're going to love it when you're done. The next big myth about barn conversions is that my barn's been standing for 100 years or more sometimes. How come we can't just change the use? It seems structurally sound, it's not falling over, it should be more than capable to support this conversion or this other use that we're going to do, whether it's a house or a wedding venue or commercial marketplace. Why can't it just support that use? Well, that's twofold. We know more about weather patterns, and our structural construction methods have changed, and the building code has changed. And so they're all going to have a say on that barn frame structure. And so 95% of the time, any barn conversion is going to require a new or reinforced roof structure to carry that snow load and make sure that your barn roof doesn't collapse on you. We've all seen many of those through the countryside. So we can reinforce the roof, we can change the roof, we can reconstruct it in a variety of different ways depending on your priority, whether it's a cost-effective solution, a functional solution, or an aesthetically pleasing solution. We can solve that problem in a variety of ways, but it is the biggest modification to your barn frame that's likely going to occur. Once we reinforce the roof, the load of that snow has to be transferred down to the ground. And we can do that using walls or columns or more beams. That modification is usually relatively simple and can be easily accommodated to get that roof load down to the foundations. And as I just said, that load has to transfer through some foundations and get that foundations on steady ground and make sure that your building isn't going to move anymore. And we do know that barns move and shift over time. So depending on how old your barn is or the condition of the foundations, depends on how much modifications or reinforcement is needed for that foundation wall. It might be as simple as patching and repairing in a few spots, dealing with some drainage issues and cleaning up the walls, or it might be as drastic as reconstructing the entire foundation wall, which would require the barn to come down and then go back up. It's very much a depends situation. But I tell clients in the end, it's most likely that only about 10 or 20% of your timber frame structure will actually be structural. The rest will be decorative, and so this is where that plays into that first myth. Sometimes a barn conversion is not cheaper or more cost effective because you already have a structure. It is can be a very expensive but very beautiful decoration to your home. And I hate having this conversation with clients, and it's full of lots of maybes and ifs, and it depends. And so Waddell Engineering and VELD Architect partner together to provide a barn condition report at a low cost. And this barn condition report will help you understand what reinforcements and solutions are going to be required for your barn, and whether you can that's part of the budget or part of the project, and whether you want to take it on. It's a bit of a go, no-go report to help you better understand what needs to happen to achieve your barn conversion. The next big myth I want to address with you is about structure. Clients always tell me, but my barn's been standing there for 100 years. How come we have to structurally reinforce it? And it's a great question. We see many barns that have been standing, but we also see a lot of barns that are starting to sag, crumble, move, collapse under snow loads. And the building code has changed over time. We know more about our weather patterns, and we our construction methods have changed, and all these things have an influence on your barn structure. And so 90% of the time, 95% of the time, when you do a barn conversion, a new roof is going to be required. It's almost a guaranteed. It's going to be either a new roof or reinforcement of the roof. And we can do that in a variety of different ways, depending on your priority, whether you need the cheapest way to reinforce your roof, whether you're looking for an aesthetically pleasing new roof structure, or whether you're looking to have it function a certain way. We can reinforce that roof structure in many different ways. Once we have the roof looked at and reinforced and in a way that you like, we have to transfer that snow load, that load down to the walls to get it to the ground. And that step's pretty easy. It can be done, using columns, beams, walls. That's pretty achievable. And done relatively simply. Once we get that load down to some foundation walls, that's where it becomes tricky again. And it really depends on how old your barn is and what condition the foundations are in. So if your barn is in great condition, it might be a matter of just doing some patching, repair, dealing with some drainage issues and some waterproofing, and we might be done with the foundations just like that. But it might be a bit more drastic, where we actually have to take the barn down, redo the whole foundations, and put the barn back up. It's a big depends. But having good foundations is really important for your barn. We don't want it to fall down. We don't want it to shift and move. And so definitely want to start your building on good foundations and make sure your investment has strong foundations. And we better not forget that floor. There's been loads of straw and hay and horses in there, and that's great, but it doesn't necessarily compare to a large dance party after a wedding. And so most of the time, the floor of your barn will need to be reinforced for your change of use, whether it's a house or a wedding venue with 150 people. So like I said, there's so many ways that the barn might be good and might be not structurally sound. There might be some repairs here and there as well of rotten beams or other situations. And by the time you're done, about 10 to 20% of your frame will do structural jobs, whether it's hold up the roof or hold up a floor, but the rest will become mostly aesthetic. And this kind of plays into that concept that, barn conversion should be cheaper because I've already got a structure. Yeah, it's not quite true, and the barn frame does become quite an expensive decoration to your house, but a very beautiful decoration. It's definitely worth it, but it's not as straightforward as just converting it and reusing the structure. And I hate this conversation with my clients. It's a big bubble burster, that's for sure. And it's full of maybes and it depends and ifs. And so VELD Architect and Waddell Engineering partner together to create for you a barn condition report at a low cost. This barn condition report will go through all the structural components and help you figure out what would be required for reinforcement or replacement or repair in your particular barn conversion. And it would be a bit of a go, no-go report that tells you what you're getting involved with and how drastic the remediations will need to be. And you can check out get a link to our barn condition report description below and give us a call and we can set you up for that. The next big myth about barn conversions is people think that they could just move into their barn. And you may have noticed that your barn might have a few cracks and might be a little drafty and you might not want to just move in. And so definitely making your barn airtight and insulated are really important things to do in your barn conversion. And they can be easy or difficult depending on the situation, and there's lots of decisions to be made around insulating your barn. The first one is that the building code does dictate certain energy efficiency requirements for new builds and conversions, renovations. And so you do have to meet those minimum building codes. And then you have to decide how you want to insulate it, how you want to meet those codes, whether you want to go above and beyond those codes as well for some low energy solutions. So you got to decide where you're going to put the insulation, what type of insulation, how much insulation, and how you're going to detail your thermal envelope. You can see behind me, we've chosen to move our insulation and our stud wall outside of the timber frame, and this ensures that we haven't buried any of our beautiful timber work with our studs set on the inside of the timber. But that definitely has other implications to your design and to the construction of your barn conversion. So it's important to think about that, and it's definitely adds to the myth that my barn conversion is easy and cheap because I've already got a structure, but it's a pretty drafty structure, so you might want to think about how you're going to fix that problem. The last big myth with barn conversions is that and it's less of a myth, is more something that people kind of forget or don't think about, is about fire safety and public safety. So the building code has lots to say about how to protect the public and occupants of a building, and you do have to comply with them whether you're doing a conversion or a new build. And so in a residence, it's relatively easy. We add some smoke detectors in some bedrooms and spaces, and add some fire extinguishers, and you're good. But it gets much more complicated when you're looking at having the public, the general public, come into your barn conversion and use the space. Whether it's in an assembly, whether it's for a wedding venue or a restaurant or a market building, all these things require certain consideration for the public safety. And the building code is very clear and explicit about what needs to happen in these situations. Whether it's a fire alarm system or a sprinkler system or proper exits, or exit stairs, or rated walls and floors. There's lots of fire safety requirements in the building code, and you have to comply it. And so VELD Architect can produce for you a building code review, which basically looks at the type of conversion you want to do and what the code has to say about that conversion, and what you have to do to comply. Sometimes you can negotiate with the fire department for some alternative solutions, but generally where possible we try to achieve exactly what the building code requests. And this report, building code report, will help you understand what needs to happen in order to do your conversion, but it will also help you negotiate and make decisions about how to avoid certain requirements if you have less people, and I can help you make some of those decisions to help you be below thresholds. Or this first conversation is always really tough with clients. I don't like having it. It's definitely a bubble burster and a rain on their parade, but I want to encourage you that there are cost-effective solutions and solutions to the myths and the challenges that I've outlined in this video, and VELD Architect, being an expert in barn conversions, can help you with that. And as I said in the beginning, a barn conversion is a labor of love, and you will love it when you're done. Thanks for watching, and check out veldarchitect.com for more information about barn conversions and some of the services we offer to get you started.